I'm Michigan criminal defense attorney and driver's license restoration lawyer Aaron J. Boria. And today I'm going to be talking to you about 5 things you need to know about license restoration in the state of Michigan. Let's go. Specifically, we're going to be talking about revoked driver's licenses due to having drinking and driving offenses or drugged driving offenses, or some kind of combination of them both. The first thing we have to cover is, what is a revoked license? In Michigan, you can have a revoked license, a suspended license, or a restricted license. In most drinking and driving offenses, if your case gets reduced, you would have a restricted license where you can still drive, but you're limited on where you can go and sometimes when you can go there. A suspended license occurs when there is a period of time that you can't drive at all for any reason whatsoever. But at the end of the license suspension, you go to the Secretary of State, you pay your reinstatement fee, and you get your license back with full privileges. You move on. In this situation, we're talking about a revoked license. When your license is revoked, this means you can't drive at all, ever, and there's never going to be a period of time where all of a sudden you get to go to the Secretary of State and get your license back. That's what we're talking about in this case. How to get your license back after it's been revoked. So who does this apply to? A license in the state of Michigan gets revoked when you have had 2 drinking or drugged driving offenses within a 7-year period, or 3 offenses within a 10-year period. If you have 2 drinking or drug driving offenses within 7 years, your license is revoked for a minimum of 1 year. 3 offenses within a 10-year period, you're going to have a 5-year revocation. At the end of 5 years, then you can apply to have review of your license. A revoked license also applies to someone who has been in a serious accident. They're drinking and driving and they cause serious impairment of a bodily function, or in a driving under the influence case where a death results. So how do you get your license back after it's been revoked? Well, you have to have a special hearing with the Michigan Secretary of State Driver Assessment and Appeal Division. And at that hearing, you have to prove by clear and convincing evidence, meaning more likely than not, that you are sober from both drugs and alcohol, and it is your intention to stay that way for the rest of your life. That's the first thing you have to prove. You also have to prove that you have maintained this sobriety from both drugs and alcohol for a minimum of a year. In many situations, it may be needed for you to show a greater period of sobriety. And you have to prove that you are motivated to follow the rules of the road, that you're going to be a safe driver. You prove these things by requesting a hearing. And in order to request a hearing, you will need 3 to 6 letters of support from friends and family that all agree that you are sober and have been. You'll need to provide a substance abuse evaluation from a qualified counselor, therapist that can answer the specific questions needed in the Secretary of State 258 form. You will also have to provide an affidavit on the Secretary of State 257 form, and you will have to get a 12-panel drug screen with a minimum of 2 integrity variables. Once all this information is compiled, you will submit it to the Secretary of State and request a hearing. So what happens at the Secretary of State Driver Assessment Appeal hearing? As of now, the hearings are all conducted online through Microsoft Teams. This gives you the convenience of appearing from wherever you want. Sometimes my clients will actually come to my office and appear with me. Other times my clients will appear with me and we'll be in 2 different states. But you will have a hearing and it will be in front of a Secretary of State hearing officer. This is a single person. Many people seem to think you go in front of a panel and you talk to many people. That's not the case. You have a hearing with a single person where you will talk to them, you will answer questions, and you will submit testimony. Your testimony is going to be centered around what I talked about in the previous section, that you have to prove that you are sober and have been, and that it's your intent to stay that way. You can do this by reinforcing things like counseling, whether or not you go to AA, or if you're involved in a church, if you've changed your social habits, if you still hang out with the same people. And you'll be questioned about these things, your daily life and what you do, and how you handle yourself in situations where drugs or alcohol may be involved. Assuming you are successful at your hearing. If you are successful at your hearing, then you will be given the opportunity to drive with a breath alcohol ignition interlock device, or a blow and go. You will have to drive on this device for a minimum of a year, but you could choose to drive on it indefinitely. I don't recommend that, but once you have proven that you are a good, safe driver and that you're still sober for at least an additional year, then you can repeat the process and seek a full license without restriction and without interlock. Once you go through this a second time and you are successful, you will be a regular driver just like everybody else. If your license has been revoked for multiple drinking and driving or drug driving offenses, call me today. I'm Michigan driver's license lawyer Aaron J. Boria, and I can be reached at 734-453-7806, or shoot me an email at borialaw@gmail.com. I have had hundreds of these cases and have been ridiculously successful for my clients. Call me today. Let's get you back on the road.